We begin in Washington, where a potential breakthrough has emerged in one of the world's most intractable conflicts. President Donald Trump has declared, "I think we have a deal on Gaza." His words have stirred global attention, offering a glimmer of hope for an end to the war and the return of hostages. Speaking to reporters at the White House on September 26, 2025, the US president announced progress toward what he described as a historic peace agreement. His remarks, delivered in his familiar off-the-cuff style, came as he hosted meetings with several Muslim leaders alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump emphasized that the proposed deal would not only secure the release of hostages held in Gaza, but also mark a turning point toward ending the months-long conflict. In his own words, the president said, "I think we may have a deal on Gaza. We're very close to a deal on Gaza. How are you doing? Good morning, Peter. I think we have a deal on Gaza. We'll keep you updated. It will be a deal that brings back the hostages. It will be a deal that ends the war. It will be a deal that brings peace. I think we have a deal. This will be the 8th, Peter." The fighting in Gaza has continued for nearly a year, exacting a heavy toll on civilians and heightening regional tensions. Repeated ceasefire attempts have collapsed, while previous diplomatic efforts failed to bridge the gap between Israel and Hamas. The White House has faced mounting pressure to broker a resolution that could both halt the bloodshed and bring home dozens of hostages abducted in the initial wave of violence. This latest announcement follows weeks of quiet shuttle diplomacy by American envoys. US officials confirmed that discussions intensified earlier this month after back-channel contacts between Washington, Cairo and Doha produced what one aide described as narrow but promising common ground. The president's public optimism marked the clearest signal yet that negotiations have entered a decisive phase. Regional reactions were cautious. Israeli officials privately welcomed the development but refrained from declaring victory. Palestinian representatives acknowledged progress but warned that key demands, such as humanitarian guarantees and security arrangements, remain unresolved. Analysts say both sides face internal political pressures that could complicate final approval. Trump underscored the potential deal's immediate goals: the return of all hostages and a verifiable end to active hostilities. Repeating his claim, he said, "It will be a deal that brings back the hostages. It will be a deal that ends the war. It will be a deal that brings peace." The president's emphasis on hostages struck a chord with American and Israeli families who have campaigned relentlessly for their loved ones' release. According to US officials, negotiators have been pressing for a phased exchange, hostages for prisoners, as a trust-building measure. More than 45 hostages remain in captivity, including foreign nationals. Their plight has become a humanitarian rallying point across the international community. The apparent progress comes amid renewed United Nations involvement. Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed what he called a window of opportunity, urging all parties to seize the moment. Several European and Arab governments signaled readiness to support post-conflict reconstruction if a credible peace framework takes hold. Still, major obstacles persist. Disputes over Gaza's security arrangements, the future role of Hamas, and guarantees for Israel's long-term safety continue to divide negotiators. Observers warn that without robust enforcement mechanisms, any agreement could unravel, as has happened with past truces. For Trump, success in brokering a Gaza deal could represent a significant foreign policy achievement heading into an election year. However, failure or a breakdown of talks could draw criticism from both allies and rivals at home, who remain skeptical of his unconventional negotiating style. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while publicly restrained, is reported to have expressed cautious optimism in private consultations. According to aides, Netanyahu reiterated his long-standing condition that any agreement must neutralize Hamas's military threat and guarantee Israel's right to defend itself. Beyond Gaza, a breakthrough could reshape regional dynamics. Analysts say progress on this front could revive broader discussions about Arab-Israeli normalization, a goal that has stalled since the outbreak of hostilities. Conversely, a collapse in talks could deepen mistrust and embolden hardline actors. Meanwhile, humanitarian agencies warn that the crisis in Gaza remains dire. Shortages of food, medicine and shelter persist as aid convoys struggle to reach civilians caught in the crossfire. The United Nations estimates that more than 1 million residents are in urgent need of assistance. In the words of the president himself, "I think we have a deal on Gaza. It's going to be peace." Whether that promise can be fulfilled will depend on the coming days of intense negotiations and the willingness of all parties to compromise. As talks continue, the world watches closely, hoping this moment of cautious optimism may finally lead to the silencing of guns and the start of healing in one of the region's most war-torn enclaves.